There is a rare phenomenon happening right now across the globe. As of about 3 minutes ago, 7:15 Eastern Time, 99% of the entire world's population is facing the sun. That means we're all experiencing some degree of sunlight at the exact same time, either full daylight or, for a lot of other folks, twilight. If you look at the map right there, just the Pacific Islands and Australia, the Australian region, are fully in the dark. 99% of the world.
What a cool phenomenon.
Across the globe.
All right. Welcome back, family. Blessed to see you guys joining us live yet again with George Nuber from Geotruth. He's going to be giving another presentation, sort of an update to some of the things that he has come across since our last video, investigating the impossible sunlight that occurred several months ago. So it's going to get interesting. We're also going to be talking about the final experiment that's really just another observation, whether or not it's valid, authentic, there's any lying signs and wonders at work, who cares? There have been lying signs and wonders going on our entire lives. Our Father has allowed many deceptions to happen throughout history because we have a choice. Who are we going to believe? Are we going to believe his words or the lying signs and wonders? And so with all the proof we have for biblical creation, it's important that nothing that the enemy is doing shake us up or let us lose our peace. These things are going on continually. Rocket launches happening almost every day now. And so these things are going to continue to go on. And none of the observations we made are our final observations, even up until the time that the firmament up above us parts like a scroll. That's not our final observation. We're going to be witnessing creation from then on, and we want others to join us and not let that be their final observation, because that will be some people's final observation. And so welcome, guys. Can't say that enough. It's good to see some of you already here. I see Kelly in the chat, KG Bear, that's what he goes by there. Good to see you, brother. Memorial Gardens, Fasook Films, the legendary Fasook Films over here. Their documentary that they made that we were blessed to be a part of is now on YouTube. If you haven't seen it yet, go to their channel. This is their channel name. I'm saying it, but it's spelled a little different than you might think. So Fasook, I think I was pronouncing it Fasiuk for like 2 weeks until I actually met them and they told me how to say their name. So Fasook Films, humble film crew there. Excellent documentary, excellent work. Much more to come from those people, talented soldiers. And so good to see all you guys here. I'm going to go ahead and bring in George Nuber. Oh, I just saw somebody that I recognize from my past. Lalo TV, excellent filmmaker right there. Humble brother. Time to see so many good people. Even the Great Awakening and Mark. Let me see if I'm saying that. Rainier. Awesome to see you guys from Canada, Nova Scotia. Awesome. Well, you guys are the best. We are blessed to have you with us on this journey. Here is George Nuber over here. I almost pointed the wrong way.
Josh. It's good to be back with you again, brother.
Yeah, great to have you back in action with us. It's awesome. All the things you've been sharing.
Yeah. And so this is going to be a presentation to a follow-on to the July 8th presentation, but it's chocked with a lot of different information. We're going to first go back to talk about the geometric relationship between the circle level plane Earth and the spherical Earth. We talked about that before, but I'm going to show it again, hopefully in a better way to understand it. We're going to go back and relook at July 8th, and then we're going to take a look at all the different season changes, the equinoxes and the solstice, what happens on the circle level plane Earth, and then the globe Earth. And we're going to talk a little bit then about the history of the United States Naval Observatory, where it came from, and what it's really about. Then we'll talk about the final experiment toward the end. So it's chock full of a lot of information. It should be entertaining for a lot of people, and there is a lot of technical things, but that shouldn't be too high level this time.
Yeah, he says that. That's an understatement. I want to let you guys know, those of you who have never seen his presentations before, if there's any of you out there, he is an architect, right? By trade, you were an architect for many years. You built many advanced structures. And so a lot of the way you see things in reality is based on your understanding of math, angles,
Right.
advanced math that I never made it to in college. I went to the lowest level maths I could get by with, and I was done. And so listening to engineers and people talk when I was in the math lab in college was like, it would just make my head hurt. And so don't be intimidated. The things he is going to be talking about, the math he's going to be using, you guys can check that out for yourself. Try to learn it. Don't be intimidated by big words. If he says a word you don't understand, like me, he said words before, and I'm like, what is that? Let me look that up. So have a notepad ready. Have your scientific journals out. I don't think Blue's Clues prepared us for these types of investigations, but it's going to be very technical and scientific. But again, he's going to try to summarize it as best he can.
Right.
And so we're going to go ahead and get started.
Yep.
Your time is valuable, and there's a lot to cover. So we're going to go ahead. You want me to pull up presentation sunlight coverage?
Yes.
All right, here it is.
All right. So I've got ability to move it. Okay. So we talked about this in the first presentation. This is very, very, very important, and people need to understand this. There's a geometric law between the diameter of a circle and the circumference of a sphere with the same length. In this case, I've already got the numbers in here that is specifically the circle diameter of 24,856 miles equals the sphere circumference. And that's exactly what's going on between the circle level plane Earth and the globe Earth. When you see on the left side here, the circle level plane Earth, you'll see that it has a diameter of 24,856 miles. And then there are other equations below that. I'm showing the surface area of that within that circle. And the equation there is basically the radius squared times pi. And we've got A equals 24,856 divided by 2 squared times 3.14159. So that tells us the total square miles on that level, circular level plane area. It's 485 million and some change square miles. Then we look over at the globe. Well, the globe, that length of the circumference is the same, 24,856 miles around the perimeter of the circumference of the globe. So when you look at that, it turns out that there, with some equations, that the diameter of a sphere is the circumference divided by pi. So now that's 7,912 miles. Then for a sphere, we basically use an equation, the area is 4 times the radius squared times pi. So now we get 196 million square miles. And you see the difference here in the square footage is huge. Basically, the globe Earth is only 41% surface area of circle level plane Earth. And that makes a big difference, which we'll explain through here. So I already hit you real hard with some math, okay? But again, these are things that we learned in high school. I'm going to go to the next page. Then, NASA in mainstream science goes, oh, well, since it's rotating and spinning on the equator, that's caused that part of the Earth, the spherical Earth, to bulge out. And this is what this graphic is showing. And by the way, the bulge, if you see the equator, that little bulge is about 13 miles on either side. We're going to get that later, address that later, but on this presentation. But now what changes for the surface area of this, basically a oblate ellipsoid, is now it's 4 times the RB times pi. So it actually, the oblate spherical Earth gets a little bit larger than the actual regular circular sphere Earth by a little bit. You can see it went from 196,711,000, 196 million to 662. So we're going to use the higher square miles just to play it fair. Okay.
Wow.
Can you play the video 1? And this, we're going to go use this to go back. Okay. Let's watch this. So this has an impact on the presentation 1. Can I play it or you?
Oh, I can play it. I was just seeing if you
Can
had
I-
anything to say before we started.
Okay. Yeah.
Will it let you play it?
It might, but let me set it up first. So when I did the first presentation for July 8th, I was using this view, which is really looking at the equator for the daytime and nighttime side. But I realized that I might not be capturing all the correct latitude points when I look up farther north or south. So this kind of explains a better idea what happens when we go up to the North Pole or South Pole. I think you have to. Oh, is that me doing it?
Yep.
Okay. So this is just spinning around pretty much along the equator. And you can see the latitude lines are pretty much level. Okay. But as soon as we start turning this thing toward the North Pole or South Pole, you'll see these lines. They curve too, which you'll see it's a better view at the North Pole and South Pole to do the comparison of sunlight. So now we're moving up a little bit forward. And you see the latitude lines are curving more. When you go down south, it curves the other way more. Okay. And so eventually I'll go straight up to the North Pole. You can see, because all we'll see on the outer perimeter is the equator. The equator is in the outer perimeter, and that center point is North Pole. This is a better view to show sun coverage on the North Pole side. And now we're going to go to the bottom of the South Pole. And same thing. It's going to stop at the outer edge of the equator. And then we've got South Pole showing the Antarctica continent here. So my view then is to redo and re-go over the sunlight coverage on July 8th using these two view perspectives from the North Pole and South Pole instead of what I did before, because it'll tell us if there's 50% coverage or not, okay, at that time. So then we can go back to the presentation.
All right, let me remove video.
Okay. So again, what we just saw on the left side is the North Pole side, and showing the center point is plus 90 degrees latitude North Pole, and as we go out, we're going 75, 60, 45, 30, 15, and then the outer edge is the equator, and then we got all the longitude lines. Okay, so this will be a better way to show the sun coverage any particular day that we want to do it, versus on the other side, the right side is how I was doing before, with that view where we're really looking straight on the equator line and then looking at the sun coverage. Then we can do the same thing. This now on the right side is the South Pole side, looking down, and then in that center is minus 90, and then we go from minus 99 to 75, 60, 45, 30, 15, and then we're at the equator. Okay, so we're going to use those views, which is a better way to determine, instead of trying to capture the light on the other side, which I called it nighttime before. Now, let's go and do some equivalent surface area calculations. So this is an equivalent surface area of North Pole side of the Earth's sphere to scale. So what that means is that North Pole, what we're looking at now, is half of a sphere, okay? And we know that at half of the Earth, the sphere is 98,355,957 square miles. So we can, again, using some calculations, that the diameter of a circle is 2 times the square root of the area A divided by pi. So the equivalent surface area on a circle is 11,191 miles in diameter. Now we can superimpose that on the circular level plane Earth to compare how much that takes up, okay? So here it is. Equivalent surface area of the North Pole side of Earth's sphere superimposed on circular level plane Earth. This is to scale. So you can see that blue colored area there, that is still the diameter of 11,191 miles in diameter. Remember, this larger circle is 24,856 miles in diameter. So you can see here the equator is a dashed line. So half of the North pole side of the sphere can't even fill up the equator amount, okay? Now we're going to go and look at what happens when we add the South Pole side. So now the total amount between the North Pole and South Pole of the sphere is 196,711,914 miles. So we're going to do the same thing with the formula. We're going to basically take the diameter. The diameter of the circle is going to be 2 times the square root of the area divided by pi. And now we're getting a diameter of 15,856 miles in diameter. So you can see where the added South Pole side is in yellow. Okay, the blue is the North Pole, and the yellow is the South Pole. And the reason why it's not as doesn't seem as much is because we got a lot farther diameters going out there. So that surface area in the yellow is equivalent to the surface area in the blue. Okay. Now we're going to superimpose that on the circular level plane Earth. So we can see here, this is to scale again. So you can see now we've got both the North Pole and South Pole at a diameter of 15,856 miles. But look at all this white that's still not there. This is the maximum surface area in the blue and the yellow that the spherical Earth has, or actually the geoid Earth compared to the circular level plane Earth, okay? So we go to the next slide. There's the difference. That red is the area that has been eliminated or deleted, okay?
Wow.
And that amount is basically the spherical Earth eliminates 288,522,947 square miles of the circular level plane Earth, which is a 59% reduction in surface area. Almost 60% of the true circular level plane surface area has been reduced just by that geometric law of going from a circular level plane of 24,856 miles to a spherical Earth that's got a circumference of 24,856 miles. That's what happens. This is a law. So you can see there's a huge, huge difference here. And now, it's going to play on how we see things when we look at different days of sunlight coverage. This is the sunlight coverage on July 8th that I presented in the first presentation. But again, this time I'm going to do it on the North Pole and South Pole. It's for the spherical Earth look view, and then I'll do it on the circular level plane, which didn't change, by the way. Now, on the previous table, I had a lot of caveats here that a lot of this latitude and longitude data was on the nighttime side, saying they can't happen. So when I switched to the correct view, a better view of North Pole, South Pole, we'll take a look. And again, the data points here come from United States Naval Observatory. And it's based on the sun is being at a 0.5 degree altitude angle. So it's almost getting to, at horizon for either sunrise or sunset. Okay. And now here we go. So this is a different view. So we got the North Pole side. We'll take a look at that. That's on the left. And then we'll see the sun. It's hard to see but it's down here. Toward the bottom, it says sun. It's a brighter yellow. It's at basically the 12.5 plus 12.54 longitude, so it's close to that plus 15 line coming down. And you can see the numbers for the hours coming across for the sunlight. Okay, so you can see that we've got here on the left. Hour 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, going all the way to 19, okay? And now if we go look on the South Pole side, we can see that the sun's not there because it's on the other side, but we go from 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, back to 1, 2, back to 7. So when you look at those two, when you combine the sunlight coverage, when you put the left on the right together, it's 50%, okay? So on July 8th, and this is the way the curvature of the latitude lines occurs, that it basically is 50% coverage of sunlight. Now let's compare that with, we did this is exactly the same view that we did it when we went on the circular level plane Earth, where now the sun is basically almost at the tropical Capricorn or Cancer, because it's at plus 22.4 latitude. July 8th is a little bit after the summer solstice, so it's going back south. But then again, it's the exact same data. We see the data points are the same on the Earth. Latitude and longitude are the same points on the Earth. So we see we're 1, we're 2, 3, we're going around clockwise, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way around. So they're on the other side of the North Pole, or North Center, excuse me, on this one. And it goes around. So we go back and forth. These data points are the same, exact same spots based on the data. Okay. Now, when we go to AutoCAD, I can actually determine what the square footage of the sunlight coverage or the square mileage is. And so it says the total surface area of the sunlight coverage on July 8th on the circular level plane Earth is 166,383,684 square miles, which if you divide that by 485 million, the larger number, 34% of the surface area of sunlight is covered. Whereas, on the spherical globe, geoid Earth, it's 50%. So we look at that. Now, this is a summary. We'll see the summary coverage when we get into the solstices and equinoxes as well. There's a lot of information on here which stays the same. The only thing that changes on this is the sunlight coverage information, okay? But for this time, we'll go through it each one. So circular level plane Earth Gleason's map, surface of all oceans at sea level, 0 elevation with no curvature. Diameter 24,856 miles. Circumference 78,087 miles. Total surface area 485,234,861 square miles. Latitude plus 90 is at the north center point of the circular level plane Earth, where all time zones converge. Latitude minus 90 is the south perimeter Antarctic ice wall with a circumference of 78,087 miles. Sunlight coverage on July 8th is 166,383,684 square miles, which is 34% of the total surface area. So we'll compare that with the geoid spherical Earth. Surface area of all oceans curve at 0.66 feet per mile squared, diameter 7,912 miles, circumference 24,856 miles, total surface area 196,711,914 square miles. Latitude plus 90 is at the North Pole, a point where all time zones converge, is 3,956 miles above the equator and is 7,912 miles above the South Pole. Latitude minus 90 is the South Pole, a point where all time zones converge, is 3,956 miles above the equator and is 7,912 miles above the South Pole. Sunlight coverage on July 8th is 98,355,957 square miles, which is 50% of the total surface area of the Earth. However, this is the difference. The sunlight coverage on the circular level plane Earth is 84% of the surface area of the geoid Earth, and that is physically impossible for that to occur on the spherical geoid Earth.
Wow.
And this kind of gives a comparison, the same thing. This is really the summary. So obviously, there's so much more square mileage on square miles on the circular level plane Earth, which the spherical geoid Earth could never handle. So this is where we have the impossibility of that sunlight coverage, okay? Because the surface of water never bends or curves, which that's all that the spherical Earth does.
Yeah. Wow.
All right, so now we're going to start getting into the summer solstice. This is June 20th, was June 20th of this year. Again, this is the data points coming straight out of the United States Naval Observatory. Same parameters. These data points are altitude angles of 0.5 degrees above the horizon. So it's either sun setting or sun rising. I'll go a little bit faster. But again, these data points come off that table. You can see that you can see the sun over here. It's on the North Pole side. It's pretty close to minus 60 longitude line right there. You can see it. and that's where it's providing, the hours there from 7 to 19. And then we go to the South Pole side, it goes from 19 back to 7. But when you look at the two together, it's 50% of the coverage of the Earth. This is now what it looks like on the circular level plane. Same data points, doing exact same thing on the circular level plane. You can see we'll start from 1 and go all around clockwise through 6 to 12 to 18 and back around 24 to 1. And then we'll use the use the AutoCAD to look at the square mileage on this too. So on this particular situation, and I've got all the data points on here when you see where the sun's at, and where it's actually located. This time it's located in the Atlantic Ocean for this particular latitude and longitude. But for the total surface area coverage of sunlight, in this case, it's 164 million, more than that, but it's 34% of the surface area. Sunlight coverage is 34% on the circular level plane Earth. So now we're going to go back again to that summarizing table. Oh, I'm sorry. This is now we're getting some information from the Gleason's map, because the Gleason's map actually shows sunlight coverage during the summer solstice. Okay, so you can see it's. I'm going to go back and forth a little bit. You can see where the sun is here. So take a look at that sunlight coverage, and I'm going to go back there. Very, very similar. Very similar. Okay, so this is some statements that's actually on the Gleason's map. In the figures June and December, the yellow represents the sun's position in his respective months at noon. This shows sunlight inside the Arctic Circle for 24 hours. From June 21st, the sun moves around the tropics in a spiral circle, widening every day until it reaches its destiny in the southern or outer solstice on December 21st. Geez, kind of sounds like Enoch, right?
Yeah.
First Enoch. And here's some information. The circular level plane Earth, Gleason's map, correctly depicts the limit of the sun's daylight range. Plus 90 latitude to plus 60 degrees latitude, known as the Arctic Circle, has 24 hours of sunlight. Okay, from minus 66.56 degrees latitude to minus 80 degrees latitude, twilight occurs. That's farther south. That's getting close to what we call the Arctic perimeter circle. From minus 80 degrees latitude to minus 90 degrees latitude, which is about 690 miles, there is always darkness, no sunlight. So that's like toward the edge of the perimeter of the Antarctic Circle. For about 10 degrees of latitude, which equals 690 miles, there is no sunlight at all, anytime during a year. And we'll see that more when we get to the December descriptions of the solstice. Okay? So these are good data points. So obviously, on a spherical Earth, well, since it's got 24-hour sunlight on the North Pole, it has to have that on the South Pole. It has to.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead and maybe bring up video 2. Yeah, this shows what it is.
Oops.
Okay.
All right, you ready for me to play it?
Yeah, you can turn the music off.
Okay.
I can do it. There it goes. This basically shows what's happening, for the day that is the summer solstice. That's what it's doing, just rotating around on Tropic of Cancer for the day. And I speed it up at the end just to kind of show it. But again, that's using AutoCAD. It's the only thing I know how to use better. So that pretty much is the same depiction that we have on the Gleason's map for the summer solstice sunlight coverage. Okay. And you'll go back to the presentation.
All right. Let's see. Where's it at? Right here. There we go.
So there's the summary again. Now, all I'm going to say here is just the difference in the sunlight coverage. On the circular level plane Earth, it was 34% of the total surface area. On the spherical Earth, it was 50% of the surface area. But when you compare the two, the sunlight coverage on the circular level plane Earth is again 84% of the surface area of the spherical geoid Earth, which is physically impossible to occur. And there we say the same thing again here, okay?
Wow.
Now, this is going to get interesting because we have to talk about the southern side of the spherical geoid Earth drastically reduces and distorts the surface area of the circular level plane Earth. We already talked about that before, right? It reduces circular level plane Earth. It eliminates over 288 million square miles and
Wow.
reduces by 59%. So, I'm going to just reiterate that. I think I showed the same thing. There it is again. So,
Can I show something real quick that I think will
yes,
help people
yes,
see
yeah,
what you're not making this stuff up? Because when I was investigating circumnavigation this year, I was like, something's off with the maps, especially the world maps that we have, and we're always under
right,
this pressure, produce an accurate map, do all this world traveling and spend millions and make a world map. And when I started looking into world maps in general, I found out that what we see above the equator changes the most on world maps. And George, does that have anything to do with them doing what you're saying? Because it seems like it would. If you're trying to make something fit a false narrative, you're going to have to stretch it and bend it. And they always say, well, and they use like the inflatable globe, if you're cutting it with a knife analogy, to show you why they're doing this. But this is a piece of paper. You're not
yeah.
cutting a beach ball. You're actually, or a globe beach ball type of device.
I think you
You're
meant
drawing.
it actually drastically changes the south of the equator.
Yeah.
That's where it's happening.
Yeah, it's weird because the
Yeah,
Antarctic shoreline, what it normally would be, seems like the light blue is more real. And then on the upper half, the dark blue is more real. And so it's like
yeah,
flipping reality and skewing all the world maps that we see growing
right,
up. They're totally different than what you see here.
yeah.
And so I think that's interesting that they would just give us this false scale set of maps our entire lives. I thought the scale was what you see with current
No,
world maps and the light blue on top, when in reality it's nowhere near that. And the maps
right,
that biblical Earth creationists have put out there are far more accurate. I'm not saying they're 100% accurate, but they're far more accurate than the typical maps that we
right,
grew up seeing hanging from the classroom walls day after day when
right.
we went to our history classes and whatnot. So we have a flawed sense of the world just based on that alone. So I think that
Yeah,
gives some validity to what you're saying about them changing things, hiding they've done things with time zones. That's been proven. And so there's lots of different ways you can change
right.
what's up below the equator. And it seems like that's where they're targeting their changes the most.
Yeah, what I should have done was take the circular level plane Earth that's got the actual map and then show where, again, show it in red where it all went away. And basically, most of it is oceans
Mm-hmm.
down there. Okay. I don't know let's see. Well, let's take a look at this on the right. If take a look at that. Okay, see the red, and then look over here. It's really they're taken away practically from the Tropic of Capricorn out all the way to the perimeter edge of the Antarctic Circle. See that? I don't know if you can see it, but that green
Mm-hmm.
line, it's on the circular level plane Earth. That's Tropic of Capricorn, and that's the latitude negative 23.44. From that point all the way out to the edge of the circular level plane, they've practically eliminated, pretty much. So we have to take that in consideration. And spherical geoid Earth geometrically requires the sunlight coverage to be perfectly mirrored when the sun is located on the same latitude distance north and south of the equator. Okay, so what you can see here on the left side is the summer solstice. So North Pole has 24-hour daylight, and you can see I've got the sun pretty much at plus 23.44 latitude. And then, of course, at the bottom, the South Pole has no light. But then look what happens when you mirror. You have to mirror it. So on minus 23.44 latitude with the sun for the winter solstice, basically it's mirrored from the equator down. And so then you get 24-hour daylight on the South Pole. And we're gonna show that more and more here. It's very eye-opening. This is where you're starting to realize that sunlight coverage that they show, the data for the sunlight coverage is corrupt. The location for the sun has to be perfect for navigation purposes because everybody uses it. But the actual sunlight coverage, that's what they play with. We'll get to that. So this is, again, the data that I pulled out of United States Naval Observatory. This is for December solstice, December 20th. Same parameters, 0.5 degree altitude angle for sunrise or sunset above the horizon. And then we'll take a look here. This is where now I brought in the data for June 20th, and I've highlighted in yellow. All they did was change the latitude to plus or minus, because that's what they had to do. They had to mirror it perfectly. So here on the left, June 20th, 2024, plus 23.44 latitude. So look at location 1. The latitude is at minus 66.56. Go over on December 20th. Now we're mirrored the latitude minus 23.44, and look, like location 1, plus 66.56. You see, if you scroll down from like locations 1 through 24 on each table, all you'll see for the latitude numbers, they just went from positive to negative, perfectly mirrored. And you don't do that on a circular level plane Earth, because that's not how it works.
Wow, that's genius for them, though. Who's going to check those numbers?
Yeah. So again, here we go. This is the sunlight coverage on the North Pole side. Now we're not going to see the sun on the North Pole side, because now we're in the winter. But then if we look at the North Pole side up here on the upper left side of that circle, you can see that's hour 7. And it goes 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then it goes 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19. And then on the South Pole side, we got 19, 18, 17. So it's coming back around. And you can see the sun over at pretty much close to latitude minus 60. I mean, longitude minus 60. Longitude line, the timeline there. Minus 60. You see the sun. So that's basically mirrored. Oh, hold on here. You go back. So this is for the December 20th. Now I'm going to go to June 20th. Look, because the June 20th, it's the same data points except the latitude changed, mirrored. Back. So they're mirroring the sunlight coverage, because they have to make it a 24-hour sun down in there in Antarctica. Because you see, that's what's happening here. See, it's a 24-hour sun on this right on the South Pole side. You got a 24-hour sun, right? Yep.
Wow. So
now that when I put it on the circular level plane Earth, this is when it's like error, because I've got this. If you look on the map, I've got the sun. You see the sun, the yellow dot there. The sun is close to minus 60 degrees longitude. But then all of a sudden, when I do the coverage, the data points, that's nighttime inside there. You see that? That's nighttime. And then everything around it is light, is sunlight coverage. So how in the world can you have the sun here, and then you got to go through nighttime side to see it on the other side? You see what I'm saying? I don't know if you see that, but so how in the world can you have nighttime that with sunlight nighttime being between the sun and more sunlight on the other side? Do you see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's curving. It's refracting
right
sideways.
But again, now that we're on the circular level plane, this is impossible. And I said that, however, sunlight coverage shown is physically impossible with an area of nighttime surrounded by daylight. Therefore, the sunlight coverage data for December 20th, 2024 is false/corrupted and solely based on a spherical geoid Earth requiring 24-hour sunlight at the South Pole. Now I do it on AutoCAD, and same thing. You can see these lines. You see the lines going around.
Yeah.
It mysteriously, sunlight goes through the nighttime area and continues past it. So when I calculated the surface area, because it's huge, this is huge sunlight coverage now. It's 320,593,334 square miles, which is 66% of the circular level plane Earth, which is scientifically, geometrically impossible, because that's not what the sun can do. Okay. So again, coverage is corrupt and false. So let's play around a little bit with what they really did. So this is the summer solstice, June 20th, on the circular level plane Earth. And you see the sun is right there at plus 23.44 on the Tropic of Cancer. Now, look what I just did. I kept the sun still at plus 23.44, but mirrored the sunlight coverage. This is basically, this data is mirrored and used for December 20th, when the sun is located at minus 23.44. So they use the data for the points, but then put the sun back over at negative 23.44. So let me just go back and forth.
Oh, wow.
Isn't this stupid? Look at that.
Mirror image.
And that's, yep. And then, oh, there's the nighttime area, but there's the sun over here. That's what they did. Go back again.
It's lighting up the dome.
Yep.
It's the
Look, it's like, oh, well, that makes sense because it's covering the North Pole, right? 24 hours. I mean, the center north, 24 hours. But when you do that, they got to do that because now with the sun there, and now they're covering all the other area, which when you bend it down to the South Pole, now you have 24-hour sun. It's a lie. This is the limit of the sun's daylight coverage during the winter solstice. This comes from Gleason's map. You can see it. Anybody can see this. This is the correct sunlight coverage, which is what we'll be showing here. So this is very interesting. On December 21st, the sun moves around the Tropic of Capricorn, and during the day, lights up the southern portion of the Earth from the Arctic Circle to some portion of Antarctic ice. There is no sunlight beyond 80 degrees south, but unknown regions of ice. Okay, and when you look at this, you can see they've actually shown this where, right, that sun is pretty much on hour 24. And you can see where that sun stops. If you go over and see where the latitude is, they stop it at 80 right there because there's no light from 80 degrees south all the way out to the perimeter Antarctic ice wall.
Wow, looks like Gleason used the AutoCAD.
They had to do this by hand.
That's crazy.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So here's more information. The circular level plane Earth Gleason's map correctly depicts the limit of the sun's daylight range. Plus 90 degrees latitude to plus 66.56 latitude has no sunlight. And there you go. That would be the center north area. From plus 66.56 latitude to minus 80 degrees latitude, sunlight occurs. From minus 80 degrees latitude to minus 90 degrees latitude, 690 miles, there is always darkness, no sunlight. Big, big difference between the two. Huge. So this is the corrected. I'm, again, using Gleason's map, pretty much corrected how that sunlight coverage should be. And that totals to 154,214,829 square miles, or 32% of the circular level plane Earth, which makes more sense. Okay. So go ahead and play video number 3. This is the sun's rotation during winter solstice. Okay, go back to the presentation. So that's the solstices, and we can see how they're cheating to make it work. Summary for sunlight coverage on December 20th. Again, the sunlight coverage on the circular level plane Earth is 154 million, a little bit more than that, square miles, which is 32% of the total surface area. Again, we're going to always have the spherical geoid Earth have 50% coverage, which is 98 million, a little bit more than that. But when you compare the two, the circular level plane Earth has 78% more surface area. There's 78% surface area of the geophysical Earth there. So again, it's impossible for that to happen. But we're going to get into that farther when we get into the final experiment. It's coming.
Yep.
We got to get there. Now I'm going to talk about the spring equinox, which is also the fall equinox. This is the data that comes from the United States navigational data. It's the same parameters, 0.5 degrees altitude angle for sunrise and sunset. So that makes sense. We see this. It's going to cover half. On the North Pole side, it covers half at the top, and on the South Pole side, it covers half on the bottom. And in this case, we could also use it from the front. Oh, wait a minute. I don't do that there. Okay. But you can see it's 50% coverage. Now, when we look at that on the circular level plane Earth, we're going, uh-oh. Does that look right for what we've seen before on the sunlight coverages that we've had for the solstices and any other time when it's the sun's on the north side of the equator? That's half of the square footage or square miles of the circular level plane Earth. So when we look at that, that's saying that during the equinox, 242,617,430 square miles is sunlight, which is 50% of the circular level plane Earth, which is physically impossible because the sun can't cover that much. It's not been designed that way by you. So we have to relook at this now. Because again, that's how I came up with the square miles is on AutoCAD. So this is false and corrupted because it's got to follow the spherical geoid Earth, which since it got shrunk down, they get away with this again because it's so much smaller in square mileage than the circular level plane Earth. So what I did is I corrected the sunlight coverage because we know, and this kind of comes back from First Enoch, that when the sun crosses the equator, that there's 12 hours of daylight at all locations, which is always required and observed during both the spring and fall equinoxes. So what I did is basically, using my AutoCAD, I basically created some vectors where, starting from minus 80 south, because negative 80 south, there's no sunlight after that point. From that point north, created data points that would be 12 hours of daylight. Okay. So there we go. This is what it should be. And it's interesting that Gleason's map didn't show this particular one. I don't know why. They should have showed it on it. But if you look at this, you'll be able to see that there's 12 hours of daylight. Of course, it has to pretty much rotate on center north, which it does, and provides that 12 hours of daylight as it rotates around. And this again is showing it there, and I can get the square miles of it based on the area there on AutoCAD. And so now we're at 151, a little over 151 million square miles, which is 31% of the surface area of the circular level plane Earth. So I did this summary again: limits of sun's daylight range during spring and fall equinoxes. Circular level plane Earth, Gleason's map correctly depicts the limit of the sun's daylight range. Plus 90 latitude, center north, sun is always on the horizon. From plus 90 latitude to minus 80 latitude, 12 hours of daylight occur. And again, from minus 80 latitude to minus 90 latitude, 690 miles, there is always darkness, no sunlight. So I got to load this up. Hold on, let me put some more on here. Okay. I just turned the music off.
Okay.
Well, you can see it provides 12 hours of daylight, which is, 9 parts day, 9 parts night. First Enoch talks about that for, all the surface area of the Earth except going from minus 80 south to minus 90 south. Okay. All right, let's go back to the PDF. So here again, we're doing the summary and sunlight coverage. The spring equinox is 151 million square miles, which is 31% of the total surface area of the circular level plane Earth. Again, we've got 50% coverage of sunlight on the geoid spherical Earth, 98 million square miles. The circular level plane Earth has so much more coverage in square miles compared to the spherical geoid Earth that it's 77% of the spherical geoid Earth, which is, again, physically impossible. And that's what we're showing here. So that's a kind of quick run through of, the different season changes, the solstices and the equinox, how they compare with the circular level plane Earth and the spherical geoid Earth, which, again, surface of water never bends or curves. And we have that as that's the basis for the true Earth that you have created. So let's get into talking about the story behind the Naval Observatory seal. This comes from astronomical and meteorological observations made at the U.S. Naval Observatory during the year 1865. This was written in 1867. Quote, the study of navigation by the government in the 16th and 17th centuries to accurately determine longitude coordinates at sea, which led to the cultivation of astronomy as a national object. This idea, which is succinctly expressed in the motto of the seal, is supposed to be conveyed by the figure of Urania ascending and reaching up with the globe in her outstretched hands, in which attitude she appears to be the suitable and emblematic guide by whom the way to unite the sky and the ocean is pointed out. To unite the sky and the ocean is pointed out? What's that mean? So the study of navigation led up to the stars and united the sea with the skies. It's almost like they're saying, there's no firmament.
Yeah. And you're saying Urania, is that like very similar to Uranus, the Roman god?
We're gonna get there. Yep, Urania is, is a goddess, right? Study of navigation led up to the stars and united the sea with the skies. This motto is taken from the 4th book of Astronomica of Manualis, the subject of which is the influence of the celestial signs. Here we go. Or signs of the zodiac upon the morals, affections, tastes, and pursuits of those who are born under them, or elementary judicial astrology. I mean, this is where astrology started from. We're now seeing this is the basis for the Naval Observatory.
Wow.
And then, quote, the seal is partly enclosed in a wreath of wheaten blades and ears. This addition to the device is taken from the wheat ears in the hands of the Virgin Spica Virginis, which is a star. It derives a further interest from being employed as the type of peace and plenty in the national coin, and from Spica Virginis being a nautical star. So you can look at this. This is the website, the URL, where all this came from. I mean, this is serious stuff here. This is how they got started. And you can start seeing we're talking about, a goddess and zodiac and astrology. This doesn't sound like it's science.
No.
The seal of the Naval Observatory. Urania is the goddess of astronomy and stars, with her attributes being the globe and compass. Urania is the daughter of Zeus and Mycenae. Astronomers also named Urania Carina, which means heaven. Urania had prophetic abilities, and many ancient astronomers used divine beings to determine the future. Really? Is that unclean spirits?
Sounds demonic. Yeah, that reminds me of the names of the planets, with one of them being Uranus, because you're saying Urania, And I don't think a lot of people know Uranus was the Roman deity, the Roman god that personified the firmament. And
Yes.
so they believed in the firmament with this deity, and now we're naming a planet after the firmament deity. So it's like the same thing with this.
Yep.
When you're talking about this, I'm having flashbacks to that
Yep.
ancient demonic origin. Wow.
Yep. Many Greek astronomers prayed to Urania to aid them in their work before they started. So now it's just getting worse and worse. Modern readings of astrological signs and symbols began with Urania. So, this gets more deeper and deeper. So the seal, it's got this wording on the seal. I'm going to probably tear it up, but there's the quote, ad egibutemi stevium previent inistra el podum caleo convict. So gubernati translated in English means government or commandment. Stivium translated in English means eagerness or zeal or study. Potum, also spelled as Pontum, is Pontus, a sea god of the Black Sea. You can see all the references there. So kind of when you pull it all together, this is what it says. Add to the study of government, he, the sea god, reached the stars, and the sea god joined the sky. Or add to the commandment of eagerness or zeal, he, the sea god, I can't read that part because it's in the way. Can you read that, the last one?
The one where it says add, all I see is add to commandment or
Yes.
eagerness. That one?
Yeah.
Yeah, add to commandment or eagerness or zeal. He, the sea god, reached the stars. Imagine them saying that.
Yep.
And the sea god joined the sky. That's what they're always doing, giving attributes to the lights in the sky. And Enoch actually prophesied about that. It said all of the chiefs of the stars, aka planets, the brightest stars, are going to change their orbits and tasks, and a generation to come was going to take them to be gods. And that's why they're all named after gods, and that's why these people are paying tribute to these deities. The sinner generation that Enoch talked about doing these things. That is dark. I did not know that about our own Naval Observatory. That's very sad, because I have some good people I know that are in the Navy and have been. So very sad.
Yep. So there's a little bit about Urania and Spica Virginis, the star. Urania on an antique fresco from Pompeii. You see holding the globe there. And then we got the star. On the left hand, you see the holding the ears of wheat. So all this stuff, again, is now we're getting into, zodiac signs and astrology and all that, not astronomy. There's a huge difference between astronomy and astrology. So this is a summary of what we just saw, looking at all the sunlight coverage when you compare it with the circular level plane Earth and then the globe or geoid Earth. United States Naval Observatory national navigational data for the sun is required to be correct, because for thousands of years, the sun has been used and relied on for navigation. Observers of the sun's movement circling clockwise above the Earth and traveling north and south throughout the year understood the sun was consistent and predictable year after year for navigational purposes. In 1854, the United States Naval Observatory was formed and is the sole government entity which provides all navigational data of the sun, moon, and stars to the world. See?
Jeez.
And you can see how that's controlled, because you know who controls above that, right?
Yep.
Wow. Since all the world relies on the United States Naval Observatory navigational data to travel throughout the world, all sun location data must be true and accurate, which includes the sun's latitude and longitude location every minute of every day of every year, the sun's azimuth and altitude angles at all latitude and longitude locations every minute of every day of every year. That's true, because what we've been looking at, the sun's location is always accurate for navigation purposes, but not the sunlight coverage. That's where they play around with it. And that's what this will talk about. United States Naval Observatory navigational data. Sunlight coverage is false/corrupted when the sun is at latitude south of the equator and at the equator. Due to the geometry of the spherical geoid Earth model, the sunlight coverage is always required to be 50% of the Earth's surface area. and perfectly mirrored when the sun is located on the same latitude distance north and south of the equator. Since North Pole experiences 24 hours of sunlight during the summer solstice when the sun is at plus 23.44 latitude, then the South Pole needs to also experience 24 hours of sunlight during the winter solstice when the sun is at minus 23.44 latitude. The sunlight coverage data when the sun is located at plus 23.44 latitude is falsely mirrored when the sun is located at minus 23.44 latitude, which we just addressed when we saw that, okay? Unlike the navigational data of the sun, the sunlight coverage data is not important to most people because we don't have to use it for navigational purposes, right? The sunlight coverage doesn't matter for navigation, and therefore not observed or tracked. The United States Naval Observatory navigational data takes advantage of this fact. The United States Naval Observatory navigational data also takes advantage of the following facts to falsify the sunlight coverage. From minus 45 to minus 60 degrees south latitude, there is mostly ocean waters with no population. From minus 60 to minus 90 degrees south latitude, the Antarctica Treaty limits the general population to visiting a very limited number of locations in Antarctica. And so I'm going to show a map here. Observable sunlight areas on Earth compared with areas not observable or limited on Earth. So you can see I kind of made a big circle there and kind of darkened the observable sunlight area. This would be where most of the population is, right?
Yes.
And then when you see it, you go past that, you're either doing oceans or it's Antarctica. So it's not observable or limited area. And so when you look at this continents and islands farthest latitude south, South America and the Falklands is minus 57.50 degrees. Africa is minus 37 degrees. Australia minus 45. New Zealand minus 43. So they're not going to be in an area where they're going to really notice, what's going on with sunlight. The Antarctica Treaty limits the general population from visiting Antarctica starting at minus 60 degrees latitude to minus 90 degrees latitude. This is how and why the United States Naval Observatory navigational data sunlight coverage is false/corrupted when the sun is at latitude south of the equator and at the equator. It's kind of a summary of, when we look into this and compare.
Yeah, and can I add something real quick to that? Because I want
Yes.
people to see
Yes.
something I saw just the other day that blew my mind because I knew they prevent travel. And what George is talking about, this blue line here, that's the 60th south parallel or close to it. I don't have it exact. I did this kind of in a hurry.
Right.
And the red line would be the 60th north parallel. We're not allowed to travel beyond that blue line, but above the red line, there's about 10 million people that live there and witness things and film things and have the 24-hour sun captured and all those things. But beyond that blue line, when I went to Google to see how many people live below that line, It said almost no one lives below that line.
Right.
So 10 million above the red line, almost no one below the blue line. And it said that's because researchers only go there during the winter months, which would be their summer. So our
Right.
winter months would be their summer.
Right.
And so that to me is very telling that you're limiting tens of millions of people that could be living there if it's exactly the same environment as it is on the top of their globe. It should be almost identical, but you have that tiny little bit of ice right there, way smaller than what
Right.
Antarctica would be if you overlaid it on top of that. And not only that, kind of to reinforce what George is talking about, when I was going through the circumnavigation data, the shoreline of Antarctica, when they were going around it, because this Naval Observatory data he's talking about, it started out in the 1800s, right? And so this isn't long after Captain Cook said that no continent was to be found. And when you convert his miles to nautical miles, it's quite a bit. I think it was like 60-something thousand nautical miles, which converts to probably close to, I can't remember how many nautical or actual miles that is, but it's very close to the HMS Challenger, which logged 78,000 miles in 3 years in their journey around Antarctica. And so they did have to stop. That would have added some mileage there, but that's some horrible circumnavigation if it's taking you that far to go around a continent that's allegedly just 11,000 miles in circumference. And when you lay Antarctica to the size that it would be, according to their data, up next to the globe, it's way larger. It matches more of the ice shoreline of the biblical Earth. And so there's a lot of truth. I mean, to what George is saying, things that start to come to light when you look into history and the real history, the stuff that they don't bring up. And it's the data from their scientific journeys, because they were scientific. And even Captain Cook, one of my students, was doing research and said that the reason for his journey in the first place had something to do with spotting, I think it was Venus transiting in front of the sun. It had something to do with their astronomy.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was fascinating and kind of tied into what you were saying about areas we're allowed to observe sunlight from, and all of them pretty much are above the 60th south parallel.
Yeah, and I've got similar information. We'll talk about that because I've added more slides here since I showed it to you, and it's going to cover a lot of what you just said too. So guess what? Final experiment expedition to Antarctica, December 13th, 2024. Mr. Will Duffy, he's leading this up, so to speak. I'm not quite sure if he's really the leader on this. So I dug into this somewhat, and Will Duffy had an original plan, one location. So you look, I pulled these off of his website. How are you going to get to Antarctica? We'll be flying to Antarctica with a company called Antarctic Logistics and Expeditions. They've been taking tourists to Antarctica since 1987, and there's their website. Where will we be staying in Antarctica? We will be at Union Glacier Camp. And this is what I needed. I needed to find this out. I was asking the question, where's the coordinates? Union Glacier Camp is located at 79 degrees and 46 seconds south, 82 degrees, 52 seconds west, and that far away from Punta, Chile. At that time, I think this is fairly recent too. I think this was three flat Earth participants, and at the time was 11 globe. I think it's like 14 or 15 globe now. I think it's still only 3 flat Earth participants. But he changed his plan after that. So his current plan, 3 locations. This is the globe Earth view. I'm looking at Antarctica. Union Glacier Camp is right there. That's the coordinates. The elevation is 2,300 feet above sea level. Scott Base, there's the coordinates, elevation 30 foot above sea level. So it's really close to the ocean there. Then Wolf's Fang runway, and there's the coordinates. It's 3,700 feet above sea level. So he's changed it. And from what I've heard on some of his videos, that he's going to have participants go to each of these locations to see the 24-hour sunlight at different times. Anyway, let's keep going here. So what I've done on that now is I've located this myself on the South Pole side. These 3 locations, Union Glacier, Scott Base, and it should be Wolf's Fang runway, not gang. And in green, the green is Union Glacier Camp, blue is Scott Base, and the red is Wolf's Fang runway. So what I did here, I used this December 20th. This was the sunlight coverage for December 20th coming up. And so you can see, on the globe Earth, that's supposed to be 24-hour sun, right? Now this is it on the circular level plane Earth. You see them now?
Wow.
Way apart. I'm like a triangle apart. Okay. So there's a huge difference here when you look at the distances between them on the globe Earth and the circular level plane. So I hope I'm going to play some of Will Duffy's videos. Is that going to be a problem? Will I get?
It depends. If he's got everything copyrighted, he can try to if he wants. If it's a certain amount, if there's music and stuff, I don't know.
These are just short clips, but
this is just for commentary purposes. Yeah, I think there's a loopholes, but yeah, if people want to be.
So this is one of his video presentations by Will Duffy. He states that based on 2 things we all use and experience every day, there are only 2 possible models of our Earth: circular level plane Earth versus the globe Earth. Those things are cardinal directions using a magnetic compass, and then travel, specifically air travel. So I think I might be able to play it myself.
Okay.
I don't know.
Let's remove this one.
Maybe you can't. Maybe you need to do it.
Video 5. You got
Video-
5, 6, and 7. Is it video 5?
Video 5 first. Yep.
This video is going to be 2 parts, and it's going to show that based on 2 things we all use and experience every day, there are only 2 possible models of our Earth. And those 2 things are cardinal directions and travel, specifically air travel. So everyone, even children, know that north is simply the cardinal direction in which a compass needle points toward. It is the direction toward the North Pole. A simple analog compass would take someone in Canada, someone in Greenland, someone in Norway, and someone in Russia to the exact same location. If they all followed the red needle, which points north, they will all be headed toward each other as they are all headed north. So there are only 2 models, the globe model and the flat Earth AE model, that can account for the cardinal direction north. On the globe, the North Pole is here at the top, and the flat Earth AE model, North Pole is at the center. Notice that on both of these models, people in different parts of the world, like Canada, Greenland, Norway, and Russia, can head north and end up in the same location. Now, what is south? Well, south is simply the opposite direction of north. If these same people in Canada, Greenland, Norway, and Russia instead headed south, using their compass to head the opposite direction of the red compass needle, they would now be heading in the opposite direction and away from each other. Instead of meeting up, they would actually now get further and further away from each other the longer they traveled. Now, this is where the globe model and the flat Earth AE model part ways. On the flat Earth model, the further you head south, lines of longitude get farther and farther apart from each other indefinitely. But on the globe model, as soon as you hit the equator, if you continue south, lines of longitude actually get closer together and meet up at the South Pole. So this shows us why there is such a drastic difference between the globe and flat Earth AE model when it comes to the south, and especially Antarctica. Antarctica is an island continent on the globe, as everything gets smaller and smaller on the globe as you move south of the equator. But on the flat Earth model, since everything gets bigger and bigger as you move south, Antarctica ends up being an ice wall that encircles all the land masses on Earth and holds in all the water of all the oceans as well. And then east and west on both the globe and the flat Earth AE model are circles, specifically concentric circles. So simple cardinal directions show us that there are only 2 possible models, the globe or the AE flat Earth model.
I think that's it.
Yeah. So
So
no matter where you're at, if you go south and you're on a different side of the world, you're going to end up on a different part of the shoreline of Antarctica, no matter what. I think that's kind of what he's same thing with north, except with north, you're actually going to end up at the North Pole.
Right. So go ahead and get back to the presentation, because I'm going to break down what he said. He said a lot of non-truths. So cardinal directions traveling north explained by Will Duffy. Mr. Duffy first focuses on using a magnetic compass traveling north from locations north of the equator. Mr. Duffy's statement that the magnetic compass works on both the globe Earth and the circular plane Earth is false. In order for a magnetic compass to correctly function and freely rotate to magnetic north, the compass is required to be level. He never said that. He's showing it on a globe, which is a curved surface. The surface of all oceans on the circular plane Earth are level, sea level, which always allows a magnetic compass to correctly function and freely rotate to find magnetic north. The only location on the globe Earth where the surface is level is at the North Pole. The equator is 90 degrees out of level from the North Pole. The South Pole is 180 degrees out of level from the North Pole. Anyone who uses a magnetic compass to navigate on the Earth are in reality navigating on a circular level plane Earth, and they just don't realize it. I mean, that's the bottom line. And then his discussion, cardinal directions traveling south, explained by Will Duffy. Mr. Duffy then focuses on using a magnetic compass traveling south. Mr. Duffy falsely states on a circular level plane Earth, the farther one heads south, the farther apart the lines of longitude get indefinitely. That's wrong. It stops. It has a limitation. The lines of longitude are level with an actual diameter distance of 24,856 miles. The globe Earth lines of longitude are circular level on the circular level spherical with a circumference distance of 24,856 miles. See, he doesn't discuss this at all. Nobody does that I know of. Again, Mr. Duffy's statement that the magnetic compass works on both the globe Earth and the circular level plane Earth is completely false, as previously stated. In order for a magnetic compass to correctly function and freely rotate to find magnetic north, the compass is required to be level. And I say the same thing again, that anybody that's using a compass and it's level, they're on a circular level plane Earth because it's level. Okay, so let's play video number 6, air travel. This is really interesting.
Now, both the globe side and flat Earth side believe air travel flights prove their model. This is one reason I decided against using Southern Hemisphere flights as part of the final experiment. This is one reason I decided against using Southern Hemisphere flights as part of the final experiment.
And there you go. That's in the presentation. He's purposely kept that out.
I wonder why you wouldn't use the flights, how much curvature you have to account for when you're flying there. It's a lot of curvature, especially if they're flying from north to south. You're going to have to really, especially if there's flights at nights, they can put a camera on the outside, see if the stars are rising as the nose is tipping down. They're not going to do that. We already have. We've seen that the stars don't rise.
Right.
We've seen that they're not accounting for 200,000 feet of curve per hour to avoid flying into space. They're trying to stay level.
Yeah.
And so flight manuals will tell you how to fly straight and level. You don't have to know the curvature calculations to fly. That's not in any manual. There's no manual telling you how to account for movement or curvature.
Right. So, I'm going to tear that one apart. So get the presentation back up. Air travel explained by Will Duffy. No southern flights considered. I basically say it again. He says, this is one reason I decided against using Southern Hemisphere flights as part of the final experiment. He purposely is hiding truth here. In my Earth's geometry video, I use these 4 flight routes to prove that the airlines use these flight routes to travel on a circular level plane Earth. These 4 commercial airline flight routes, which originate south of the equator, only work on a circular level plane Earth. And you can see the different locations where they're going to and from. These will only work on a circular level plane Earth. And the main reason is because of economy. Will Duffy is supposed to be a business guy trying with economy as part of his forefront. And this is, when you see how these flight paths go, they're perfectly aligned with a circular level plane Earth and not a globe Earth. So based on Mr. Duffy's discussion, he is definitely biased toward the globe Earth, always using words like North Pole, South Pole, and hemisphere, even when addressing the circular level plane Earth. I don't know if you noticed that, but that's what he does. The circular level plane Earth consists of center north, south perimeter Antarctic circle, and locations north or south of the equator. There's no spheres, spheres. So let's play video number 7 by Mr. Duffy.
Who is a pilot. I actually have multiple pilot friends, but this friend took this flight and he shared this with me from his actual flight. As you can see, this flight flies directly over the North Pole. Now, this makes perfect sense on the globe, and it makes perfect sense on the flat Earth AE model. In both models, flying over the North Pole is the shortest distance between these 2 destinations. Here's the actual route displayed on a globe, also known as a great circle route. You can see that the flight path is in a straight line. And here's the actual route displayed on the AE map, also a straight line going over the North Pole. Again, if your model cannot account for flights that go north to reach destinations that are east and west, and sometimes even south of the origin, your model is wrong.
So, let's address that now. This is why he only used travel in the north. Air travel north of the equator, explained by Will Duffy. Mr. Duffy purposely addressed commercial airline flights only north of the equator because the locations on the circular level plane Earth and globe Earth are consistent. We're on the north side of the equator, so the morphing of flight routes has not occurred really yet because they pretty much are going to be the same. So you can see the layout of the mapping of the continents on north of the equator, on the North Pole side, and then you see it on the circular level plane with center north. Very, very similar. There's no difference. That's why he can get away with saying that, just on the north side of the equator only. He purposely focused on that only. He didn't want to address south travel south on with the airlines.
Well, not only that, I'd have to disagree with him on one thing, and that's if you've ever seen somebody throw a ball from one side of a merry-go-round to the other while it's rotating, it will not go in a straight line. It'll go in a straight line, but it's not going to look like it. It's not going to reach the target. If you're trying to throw a ball to somebody on the other side of a merry-go-round while it's spinning, try it. It'll never work until you master throwing it into a curved flight path. And planes don't have to do that. They can fly from point A to point B and assume that what's beneath them isn't rotating. Even if they were in a balloon, which has been done, Operation, I think it was Man High, where they were up in the air for the beloved 33 hours, and the guy came down after going, over 100,000 feet up. He came down just a couple hundred miles away from where he landed. Like those things were happening all the time. They were not factoring in rotation whatsoever.
Nope. Right. It's not there. Yeah.
Wow.
So this is now I'm going to get into talking about sunlight coverage, on the circular level plane Earth on these locations that they're going to be at for this final experiment. But I actually did it on December 20th because I know where the sun is right there. It's going to be on the Tropic of Capricorn. So Union Glacier is in green here, and it's at it's the farthest one south. It's just almost south of -80, which apparently there's no sunlight coverage there, right? This is interesting. But when you look at how the sun moves, they kind of did little miniature curves. If you move them around, and then based on that edge of the coverage by the sun at that time, Union Glacier Camp would have 2 hours of sunlight coverage in the day from 11 to 1, 11 to 1300. It's 2 hours. Scott Base, because it's a little bit farther north, not much, than Union Glacier, he gets about 3 hours, 10:30 to 13:30, 3 hours. And then when you get to Wolf's Fang, because it's farther north, it's the most northern of the three, you get about 5 hours from 9:30 to 14:30. Okay, that would actually occur. So you have partial sunlight, but never 24 hours of daylight. So now I'm mirroring kind of what they did with their data. I just mirrored the latitudes for Union Glacier, Scott, and Wolf's Fang. So there they are on the North Pole side, right? Because that's what they did on the South Pole side. It's the same latitudes, but just mirrored instead of they're plus instead of negative. All right, and this is actually on the June 20th. Actually, this is June 20th here that I use for the light coverage. So that's how they get away with it. They're doing this is in June 20th. This is the sunlight coverage for the center north, and that's what they did. They basically are doing that here and mirrored the sunlight coverage. So all I got to do now, I'll do the same thing. I put it on the circular level plane Earth. All I did was they're on the same longitude line. I just moved it into the plus side of the equator. Okay, it's just moved them, and here's where there they are. Now they're basically, you can see they're on the same longitude line. They've just been moved from minus to plus latitude, minus to plus. This is the games that they're playing for the three locations. So the final experiment, this is actually the sunlight coverage that I'm showing here for the summer solstice, what I'm showing on the map here. And you can see, because if it was these locations were positive instead of negative, you can see they're covered by sunlight. That's what they're trying to do on the bottom side now with Antarctica. Okay, so I looked up Antarctica Logistics and Expeditions website, and they state this. They actually state this in their literature. Union Glacier Camp experiences a 24-hour daylight November through February. And you can see right here, I took a picture of it. Even though we operate in 24-hour daylight, it's like, oh, really? Huh. So they're admitting that they've got 24-hour daylight. But yet, Austin Whitsitt had a discussion with Will Duffy on August 22nd of this year on the final experiment on a live stream, Austin asked quite a few questions that basically I think Will was hiding from. Austin asked Will if the company running Union Glacier Camp said they always see a 24-hour sun. Will answered no. Then Austin also asked Will if he specifically asked the company if they regularly see a 24-hour sun. Will answered no, meaning he didn't ask them. Both of Will's answers were deceptive because he already knew, based on the literature, when you go read on their website, Antarctic Logistics and Expeditions advertises Union Glacier Camp experience a 24-hour daylight. So let's play. We're going to play part of that interview with Austin.
I'm curious. You said you talked to them about it. You talked to the people about seeing it.
You mean the company we're using?
Mm-hmm.
I talked to them about being able to film.
Yeah, but didn't I hear you say that you told them why and they laughed about it? They thought it was funny.
I told them about flat Earth and how they say there's not a 24-hour sun and how I want to go down there and film it. Yeah.
And so I'm asking, did they explicitly tell you? Did they like laugh and say we see it all the time?
No.
Shouldn't they see it all the time? Okay, here's another thing I want to know. Like, would I be able to talk to these people before we go? Because as it stands right now, I think Jaren's trying to talk to him, hasn't really been able to, and so you can see we have basically just like you talking to them, which obviously you're paying for it, but I would like to talk.
So once I get a yes, so the only yes I've received so far is Dave McKeegan. Once I get a yes, I turn you over to them. So you deal with them directly. You ask your questions, you fill out the paperwork, and then once everything's done, then they come back to me for a check. So yeah, you'll be able to talk to them all you want.
Okay. And so I guess that maybe kind of answers the other question, because a lot of people are saying, why did they agree to give you permission to let us come out in the prohibited time when seemingly they never have done that? And do you actually have evidence of it? And that's kind of why I'm saying like I'd be able to talk to them.
Yeah, I can explain that. It's very easy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at Union Glacier, so they set that camp up fresh every year, every season. Okay. So in the southern winter, which is, kind of right now, everything just gets covered in snow and ice. So they reset up the camp every year, and it's tense. Like, they're super nice, but it's tense. And so they have a rule of quiet time where they don't want, because there's light in the middle of the night, people are going to be tempted to just go outside and talk or whatever. But people are also going to want to sleep. So they just have that general rule. What I told them, hey, we need to be out to film the 24-hour sun. We can be super quiet. They can put us in a corner tent that's further away from a majority of the other tents. It's not that big of a deal.
Okay, and just to clarify, so you didn't specifically ask them if they regularly see a 24-hour sun?
No.
Okay.
So that's
interesting. He's like the go-between. Like, how did he talk to them if they can't talk to them unless he approves? To me, that makes no sense. It's like, how did he get the first contact if he's the go-between these people in Antarctica? Because all the tourist stops in Antarctica are owned by like the same.
Right. They're all controlled. They're all controlled. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's weird that he has to say, oh, yes, I'm going. And now Will can then talk to them and say, all right, you're free to talk to my friend over here who's now going. That doesn't make any sense to me, because Will had to talk to them as someone who wasn't going at some point.
Right.
Otherwise, he'd have never talked to him. Yeah, that's weird. Like, that's just, to me, that's odd that the person that's just giving things away for free was the only one that can talk to him.
Well, the other thing too is you see how he basically he knew the answers to these. He already knew. They know that they have a 24-hour sun, whatever that is. We're going to get into that later. But they have 24-hour daylight. They don't say sunlight. They say daylight.
Yeah.
All of them say daylight. And he actually said, we're going to be out when it's light at night. He already knew. He said it in the video, when it's light at night.
Yeah.
So it's like he already knows. So to me, that almost sounds like it's a setup. But let's get back to the presentation. He dodged a lot of questions. He wasn't truthful with Austin there. So I also looked up Swoop Antarctica. That's another one that does the trips, and they go to Scott Base. So Swoop Antarctica states between November through February, Scott Base campers experience Antarctica's extended daylight hours with no significant darkness, 24-hour daylight. Here we go again. So all these locations, they have 24-hour daylight, and it's like, okay, so if that's the case, they advertise it, then why is Will getting everybody to go down there? He already knows there's daylight. There's no sense in going. It's already there. So here is my take on this. The final experiment is a waste of time, energy, and money. It does not scientifically prove anything about the true geometry of the Earth. That's what we're trying to find out. Are you going to use a light to determine the geometry of the Earth? No, you should look at the Earth itself. The companies who offer trips to Union Glacier, Scott Base, and Wolf's Fang Runway state on their websites during the months of November through February, these locations experience 24-hour daylight. Since this is already advertised and known by these companies, there's no reason or purpose to perform the final experiment. A true scientific test and observation of the Earth's geometry is required by analyzing the actual physical Earth itself and not looking up at a light and relying on it to determine the Earth's true geometry. 24-hour daylight is not the same as 24-hour sunlight. Light can emanate from different sources, And that's a key here, because there's going to be a lot of deception going on, because they have 24-hour daylight there somehow at those locations. Mm-hmm. So this brings me back to this. I talked about this in the presentation 1. This is a solar simulator document patented back in 1966. Solar simulator. This invention relates to a large artificial illumination system intended to be used as an artificial sun in the testing of space vehicles and similar equipment. More specifically, the invention comprises a more or less planar array of a large number of modular units, each having a light source by accommodating system and being of such luminous power and quantity that the total array of these modular units has the approximate intensity of the sun. So maybe that was the real reason they had to create this back then, is to do what they're doing now in locations on Antarctica. They have a solar simulator.
Yeah, and they have some new ones. I was finding articles looking into this. They have new sun simulators. One of them is called the Sin simulator, like SYN, like a play on sin.
Uh-huh.
And they say this thing, it's gigantic. Let me see if I can share my screen. Let me see. Share screen. Should give me an option. There we go. I'm going to share this real quick. Just to show you the scale of these things, if it'll let me blow that up to full screen.
Right.
This thing, bright. Could you imagine turning that on, how bright that would be? And they say that the sin light, that's what they call it, SYN, sin light, it puts out 10,000 times as intense light as the sun.
Huh.
So, the Father made the great light. Mankind likes to have this persona of being able to replicate better than what he has done. And they're not making anything near what our Father has made. Right. $3.8 million they're spending on making this light. That could have been put to way better use. 50 feet tall, fills a 3-story building in Jülich, Germany, if that's how you say that. Scientists can focus 350 kilowatts. Sounds like something from Back to the Future. Honeycomb of xenon short arc lamps. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's the things they're doing. Yeah. And again, look at the scale. Look at this little guy here. Imagine changing them light bulbs and somebody turning on the switch. Apparently, according to their data, it would roast them. That is.
Yeah.
And that's not even with the patents. There's, like he says, there's patents to the sun simulators.
Yeah.
I found several. I think there was one here.
Yeah.
Around the same time. 67. Is that the one you're looking at? There's another
66.
one.
66. Yeah. It's probably
67.
Yeah.
I just don't know why they would need that. So I thought that was.
Yeah. And, I think about that too. That's old technology. There's so much going on that the technology is way beyond our understanding because they hide it from us.
Yeah, and they've had decades. They
Yeah.
haven't just been peacefully guarding penguins with warships for
Right.
decades for no reason. They're
Yeah.
doing stuff. They're not just sitting there twiddling their thumbs. The enemy has a set of plans
Yep.
that are in Revelation. It talks about it in Revelation.
Yep.
Planning, what they're planning involves deceiving us about what we live on, and the Father allows these deceptions to happen.
Right. This says, although the invention has been illustrated and described with specific numerical data for effective focal length, clear apertures, and light source brightness and size, the actual dimensions of the optical system and type of light source chosen may be varied without departing from the spirit of the invention. Therefore, the invention is not limited to any specific sizes of optical elements disclosed. So, for that means they can scale it up. And I'm sure they've got the ability to do that, and technologies that we don't really know about. So what I did, I thought, well, okay, I know the 3 locations, and I got into the navigational data on the United States website. So I'm calling it the navigational data of solar light sources now at
Wow.
Antarctica locations on December 13th. This is actually going to be a week from tomorrow when they go down. Okay. So what I looked for again was the locations of the sun for 24 hours with the altitude angle and azimuth angles. So I've got, these are just for the 3 locations. Okay. Then I plotted them out. And I did it basically when you're standing up. It's like if you did a 360-degree, view of the sun going around you. Okay. So hour 1 is over to the right. And this is literally what it does as far as either angle based on the altitude angle and azimuth that you would actually see as you're turning around in a 360-degree view. So hour 1, the sun's going down, and hour 6 is south. So now we got whatever the light source is, it's south of Union Glacier Camp, south of practically minus 80 degrees latitude, right? And now it's going to come back up because it's going to come around and rise. And by the way, this is counterclockwise. These actually circle not counterclockwise. We'll see it later on. So now it's rising up. And this is like hour 9, 10. So hour 12, it's east. 13 is rising up, and then of course north, because it's north would be, it's trying to act like the real sun on the circular level plane Earth, so it's going to be at the highest elevation. Got it? Because it's supposed to be, the sun would be north of that location, and then it's going to go back down. In hour 24, it's going to the west. But you can see the sun's always up, for 24 hours. So I call it a solar simulator trajectory, because it's not the sun. It can't be. You have something south of minus 79 degrees latitude. So then this is where I plotted it on the circular level plane Earth. Okay, this is the actual latitude and longitude location, and then here's the hours as it's going. It's going around counterclockwise. Okay. So you can see when it's going south, I mean, we talk about, we who believe in the circular level plane Earth, biblical Earth, there's a firmament. So that firmament's touching down at minus 90 degrees south on the plane of the Earth. So you don't have a whole lot of room there for that, whatever it is, to rotate around. But something is, otherwise, how can they get 24-hour daylight? Mm-hmm. Do the same thing for Scott Base. Again, start hour 1 is north. It's way up here because that's what they do. On the north side, it's always going to be high because that's the sun apparently is going to be on that side if you look at, compare it. And now it's going back down. West, it's going down. And south, it's still above the horizon, but it's, going down. Then it comes back up. Again, this is where is it? Right here. There it is on the circular level plane. And this is, again, minus 77.85 degrees latitude south. There's not a whole lot of room for that thing to go south of that location without having issues with the firmament coming down. Yeah. This one is Wolf's Fang Runway. Again, going over from the right to the left. Hour 1, it's low on the horizon, east up, and then north way up, goes back down, west, and then south. And these are this is actual data coming from the navigational data, which we know is corrupt now.
Yeah.
And here we go again. This is Wolf's Fang's runway, and this is how it goes around. This is probably the one that's most north of the 3 locations at Antarctica. So now, in order for that to happen, you've got 3 separate locations on the circular level plane that have a light source circling it. And so that tells you these solar simulators are used in Antarctica to pose as the sun, which is just a light source to create daylight. So now we talk. You're talking about the size of that solar simulator. This is what I get into because I've talked before about this. That based on the sun, the NASA mainstream science distance of the sun and the diameter of the sun, distance of the sun from the Earth and the diameter. When you look at the distance diameter ratio, it's 106.9. And when I use double triangulation on a circular level plane Earth, using straight lines, level straight lines, horizontal, vertical, the actual, when you look at the elevation of the sun, which is either in the second or third firmament, is 3,107 miles. But then when you divide that by 106.9, the ratio, then the sun is about 29 miles in diameter. Okay. But so if we keep that same distance diameter ratio, we can get an idea of maybe what size of these solar simulators are out near the edge of Antarctica. And the key to this is that distance to diameter ratio 106.9 is a set cone of perspective, where in that specific cone of perspective, the sun size will always look the same at any distance from Earth from less than a mile out to 93 million miles. As long as it has that same cone of perspective, it will look to you as the same size. So this is what I thought. Okay, let me see. Here is the cone of perspective of 106.9. So I've got the level Earth here, and here's the cone. So within that cone, if I'm 1 mile high, which again, I don't know, how the firmament comes down on the edge, but if it's 1 mile high, whatever this light source is, it only needs to be 49 foot in diameter. Okay. If it's 5 miles high, then it needs to be 245 foot in diameter to it, basically be in that cone of perspective. If it's 10 miles high, then it's 493 feet. So you can see, depending on how they're doing it, I mean, really, when you look at the orbit, I'll call it just the orbit of this solar simulator going around these locations, it could actually be going not only it might not be on the same level plane. It could be going up and down, and they might be able to have different arrays where they can make it wider or smaller. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Almost like an aperture.
Yeah, and that was my thought was, is anybody bringing a balloon for the fact that they're spending tons of money on this in case it's cloudy, but also to verify that what we're seeing is indeed the sun going up to different elevations? Because we can tell with balloon launches, we can film the sun and see how it changes versus how it would with a balloon in Antarctica, something we don't get to see every day, even though NASA launches tons of balloons from Antarctica every year. Yeah. And so they have balloon launch bases there. So I thought that would be something to ask. I don't know if anybody has an answer or knows that, but that's what I would do if I was paying tens of thousands of dollars for just one ticket. I mean, it's a lot of money for one ticket, but paying tens of thousands for more people, I could not imagine not bringing balloons. Just perchance it's cloudy those days, that would be worth it. But also to verify what we're seeing is indeed the sun.
Right.
Seems like that would make sense.
Yeah. So this is kind of a notional solar simulator where, I've got it like at Union Glacier Camp. It's the farthest one south. That, that's pretty much the counterclockwise of whatever the light source is, a solar simulator, circling counterclockwise, kind of in an elliptical orbit. The only reason I think it's elliptical is because they can't make it a full circle because they're going to be too far south and hitting the edge. So the simulator stays below the firmament, and changes elevation while maintaining the 106.9 cone of perspective. That's what I kind of think they could get away with the technologies that they've got. That would be easy for them to do, to make this a deception. So let's talk about Antarctica on both the globe and then the circle-level plane that you talked about before. So this is a pretty good detailed map of what they say the map of globe Antarctica is. So they say that the Antarctica surface area is 5,500,000 square miles. And during the summer, which is October to March, the population is around 5,100 people. That's when they get the tourists, and they do a lot of other things too. During the winter season, the population is about 1,300 people. Okay. So this is a map of the Antarctica on the circular level plane Earth, Gleason's map. So I highlighted it like a gray donut going around the edge, because if you look at the how the ice wall kind of goes out and then in, you kind of have to get an average thickness of the donut, which I basically averaged. Did a couple of things and averaged it out, and the circular level plane Earth Antarctica surface area is 98,500,000 square miles. That's what it is on the circular level plane Earth. It's huge compared to the 5.5 million on the globe. The circular level plane Earth Antarctica is 18 times the size of the globe Antarctica. Or the globe Antarctica is 5.5% the size of the circular level plane Earth Antarctica. Antarctica's average distance from the ocean side of the perimeter edge is 19.3 degrees of latitude, which is equivalent to 1,300 miles. So the average width of the ice on the Antarctica circle is 1,300 miles. It's huge. So now let's talk about globe Antarctica distances between the three locations and to the South Pole. So the distances between each location. So if you look at from Scott Base to Wolf's Fang Runway, that's 2,111 miles to go across. If you look at from Wolf's Fang Runway to Union Glacier Camp, it's 1,476 miles. And from Union Glacier to Scott Base, it's 1,253 miles. Now, the distances to the South Pole from each of these points, from Union Glacier is 706 miles to South Pole. From Scott Base, it's 839 miles to South Pole. And from Wolf's Fang Runway, it's 1,276 miles. And this is easy calculation. I put the table on there. It's basically the latitude distances that tell you. The latitude distances are usually because South Pole is minus 90 degrees latitude, and then the difference of where the latitude is the latitude numbers, and then you multiply that by 69 miles per latitude degree. Simple. Again, same thing on the circular level plane Earth. So we're going to get to that now. So now we'll look at the distances. The distances between each location. Scott Base to Wolf Fang's Runway is 22,000 miles. Wolf Fang's Runway to Union Glacier is 16,000 miles. Union Glacier Camp to Scott Base is 19,000 miles. Now the distances south of the perimeter circle, which is going to be the same distances, by the way, as what we just saw on the globe, because they're all still at the same location compared to minus 90 degrees south. So they're all the same. It's like, so Union Glacier Camp is 706 miles from basically the firmament wall, put it that way. South perimeter, minus 90. And then Scott Base is 839 miles from the firmament, minus 90 degrees south. Wolf Fang's Runway is 1,276 miles from the firmament, or minus 90 degrees latitude.
It's a huge difference.
Huge difference.
Wow. So
here's the basic dilemma, and this I'm getting to is this is how you can determine what the right size of the Earth is by a test and observation. We're going to talk in a minute. The basic dilemma between the globe Earth and the circular level plane Earth. The globe Earth distances from the three Antarctic locations to the South Pole are the same distances on the circular level plane Earth to the South Perimeter Circle. So that's what this table shows. It's when you look at the distances, the globe Earth, they're going to the South Pole. The latitude distance in miles is the same on the circular level plane of those three locations, but now they're going to the South Perimeter Circle. See, no difference there. But this is the real dilemma. The distances in miles between the three Antarctic locations are extremely different on the globe Earth and on the circular level plane Earth. And there's a difference between the globe Earth distances between the distances. You can see they're huge. So there's a way to test that. We could test that. How can we determine which geometry of the Earth is true? The ultimate scientific test and observation to prove the true geometry of the Earth. This will never happen, by the way, because Satan will never allow it, but it'd be worth talking about. During the summer months in Antarctica, set up an expedition to Antarctica consisting of 3 separate groups, each group to consist of people who believe in the Earth is a globe and people who believe the Earth is a circular level plane. Assign the groups as follows. Group 1 goes to Union Glacier Camp, Group 2 to Scott Base, Group 3 to Wolf Fang's Runway. Day 1, all groups arrive at their designated Antarctic location. Day 2, all groups fly from their designated Antarctic location to the South Pole, verifying actual miles and time traveled as stated on the globe Earth. Outcome option number 1, all 3 groups physically meet up at the South Pole. Outcome option number 2, all groups do not physically meet up at the South Pole. So there's your outcome. Outcome 1, all 3 groups physically meet up at the South Pole. The true geometry of the Earth is a globe, okay, because they're all going to meet up at the same South Pole. They'd see each other there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Option number 2, all 3 groups did not physically meet up at the same South Pole. The true geometry of the Earth is a circular level plane. Each group traveled to their own fake South Pole. This is how sinister and deceptive it could be. Distances between each location, we've seen that before. And then we've seen the distance to this perimeter circle. So now what I showed on here is that when they go to these locations on the circular level plane Earth, their distances is what it's stated there. Like for Union Glacier, they travel 706 miles, but they're pretty much probably going to go west that number of miles, and they've got a fake South Pole. If they're at Scott Base, they're basically going to travel 839 miles west, and they're going to see a fake South Pole. At Wolf's Fang Runway, they're going to go, they could go east on that because there's probably, it doesn't matter each way. They're so far apart. 276 miles, and they're going to see a fake South Pole. This is a simple way to determine it. Fake South Pole at all 3 Antarctic locations. At each Antarctic location, a solar simulator poses as the sun and provides 24-hour daylight. A fake South Pole is located at the distance as stated on the globe Earth map. The fake South Pole is a theme park with the exact same terrain, site, area, and buildings. So let's play the last video, number 9, by Mr. Duck.
Is a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. The AE model is falsified. The South in the AE model is pushed to the outer perimeter of the known world. And the sun, therefore, cannot circle the heads of people in Antarctica. If someone is here at Union Glacier, the sun cannot circle their heads while simultaneously circling the heads of those here at Scott Base, while simultaneously circling the heads of those here at Wolf's Fang. There will be people in all 3 of those locations during the final experiment in December.
So there you go. He's challenging it, but I think this is the only way that could be answered. He's acting like he's using the sun as the reason for it, but it can be another source of light. So fake South Poles at the 3 Antarctic locations. This is they very much might have the same layout at all 3 locations. Nobody know the difference because they're going and they're telling them this is the South Pole, but how do they know?
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying they've always got these people going to one location, but they're not trying to meet at the same South Pole. And that would be a real challenge and a test to figure it out. but I don't think, and here it is, Satan will never, ever allow the truth about you as creation to be revealed to humanity. He'll just continue to lie, deceive, hide, and kill to keep the heliocentric spherical geoid Earth narrative in place. Satan's UN 1959 Antarctica Treaty System went into force on June 23, 1961, is international law which governs and controls access of all countries in the area south of 60 degrees south latitude, even trips, vacation trips, or something like this. The final experiment is being controlled. He hides the evidence of the circular level plane Earth in the firmament. Any possibility of having the ultimate scientific test and observation to prove the true geometry of the Earth described in this presentation is futile because it will never be allowed by Satan. I don't think so. So the key is do your own research and think for yourselves concerning the Earth you live on. The Earth is a circular level plane. The surface of all oceans, which are over 70% of the Earth's surface, are level and sea level. For life to exist on Earth, a firmament dome barrier is required to maintain 14.7 psi air pressure with 20.9% oxygen at sea level. The circular level plane Earth provides a level foundation to support a firmament dome barrier. It's impossible for a globe Earth to support a firmament dome barrier for life to exist. NASA states the Earth is an oblate spheroid and the equator bulges 13 miles above sea level compared to the North and South poles. All ocean areas at the equator are sea level, and all land areas at the equator have elevations between 0 to 13,000 feet above sea level. The globe Earth is nothing but an illusion by Satan. And so, again, I did this in the previous presentation, showed pretty much how the scale would be a 9-inch diameter circular level plane Earth and what it looks like using a baseball. Again, that would be, it's going back to when we compared, the surface areas of each one. So you can see that that's the deception there is the globe Earth. I bought these just to show for life to exist on the Earth, a firmament dome barrier is required to maintain 14 psi air pressure with 20.9% oxygen at sea level. I just basically took that and found the right size glass bowl to put on top. I mean, it's a perfect example of creating a dome barrier that we keep our air pressure in here, which you have created for us to exist. If you tried to do that on a globe Earth, there's no level support for it. It's just curved, and you get part of it. It just won't work. Part of it's got a dome cover, but then the other doesn't. It just won't work. It's impossible. And then here we go. Since NASA states the Earth is an oblate spheroid, then all the oceans and land at the equator should have an elevation of 13 miles above sea level compared to the North and South poles. You can see this here. But there are no walls of water 13 miles higher or mountains peaks 13 miles high on any area on the equator. And then I did this comparison here where I actually took some data. I was searching for these are the first table shows the continent or island where the equator runs through it. South America, the tallest mountain is here. It's 22,000 feet, it's 4.3 miles high. And it's this is the coordinates. It's 2,200 miles south of the equator. Africa, the equator goes through there. That's the highest mountain at 3.7 miles. Now it's 213 miles south of the equator, but it's not on it, and it's not 13 miles. Sumatra, it's Mount Kenad. It's 2.4 miles high. It's 117 miles south of the equator. Borneo is Mount Kilimanjaro. It's 420 miles north of the equator. Then when you look at the top 10 mountain peaks, none of them are on the equator. They're way, so this whole thing about spherical and geoid Earth is just, it's just a huge lie. It's an illusion. So guess what I did today? I got my sundial and set it up. Beautiful sunny weather here, Myrtle Beach, and took a sun shadow reading for today. It's the sun shadow, December 5th, 12 solar high noon, which is basically 180 degree azimuth at my latitude and longitude location. So I blew this up on the side here because you can see I actually made a long line here where the shadow length was 6 9/16 inches, which is 6.56 inches. So now that I know my gnome height is 4.5 inches and the sun's shadow length is 6.56 inches, I can calculate the sun's altitude angle with AutoCAD. So I did. So here is the picture here. That's the gnome at 4.5 inches high. There's a sun shadow, 6.56 inches. So when I make that triangle, and again, notice that that's a level plane right there, the horizontal level plane for the altitude angle. The altitude angle is 34.45 degrees. So I have to talk about this. Latitude degrees is the latitude distance. So the other angle on the triangle, if you look up high here, that's called the latitude degrees. That's 55.55. Since I know the altitude angle down here at 34.54, if I take that number and subtract it from 90 degrees, because these two angles together add 90 degrees, the latitude degrees is 55.55 degrees. This is how you created perfectly the circular level plane. The height of the sun, same level, 3,107 miles, and the diameter of it, how it does sunlight coverage. That 55.55 degrees tells me exactly how far south the sun is, latitude degrees. And so what I can do is sun is located at 55.55 latitude degrees south of Myrtle Beach, which I'm located at 33.74. So I just subtract the differences. So it tells me that because 33.74 would get me to the equator, and then the difference is 21.81 degrees latitude. So now I know the sun's at minus 21.81 degrees latitude, and I know that 69 degrees per latitude. I know the sun is 1,506 miles south of the equator. This is all, it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. So then I can make another chart, same thing, but now I've put on the horizontal line here my distances and where the equator is, okay? So today, December 5th, the sun went across my latitude line, my longitude line of minus 78.88, 1,506 miles south of the equator, which is minus 21.81 latitude. It's 113 miles north of the Tropic of Capricorn. So in the next week or so, it's going to move south for the other 113 miles, okay? So that tells me from where I'm at, I know exactly where the sun is today, and I can do it as long as it's sunny. I can do it each day and see that sun move a little bit more, and it's going to get probably in a week maybe to that Tropic of Capricorn. So the one thing I'm going to say here is that based on that day, the sun being at minus 21.81 degree latitude on the circular level plane Earth, it's always going to be at least 45 degrees north of the three Antarctic locations that we're talking about. It's 3,100 miles north of the three Antarctic locations. It cannot provide 24-hour daylight there based on this.
Wow. You did that today.
I did that today. Did it today, just before high noon. Yep.
Wow.
So there you go. There's a lot to think about, and so people need to be aware that I think this final experiment is going to get a lot of publicity. It's going to be nothing but deception, and those of us that are seeking truth and that know about the true circular level plane Earth that you have created, we're going to get upset. I mean, I'm going to definitely get upset because deceptions would occur anyway, And they got more celebrities going too. I think Candace Owens might be going now.
Yeah, and I hope she's not in on some deception. I love Candace Owens and her wisdom. She has so much wisdom, and she's inquisitive. And the enemy isn't beyond deceiving people who are seeking truth with the lying signs and wonders. So just because somebody goes there and is deceived, it doesn't mean they're in on it. I don't think Whitsitt gets it. Austin Whitsitt is in on some conspiracy to hide things.
I don't think so either.
He deceives so many. There's no limits, and no matter what happens, this is not the final observation. It's not an experiment. It's an observation. It's not
Right.
final.
Right.
Look at all the evidence we've compiled over the 8 years. Why would we choose one observation to just be the end all? You know,
Right.
because I mean, just imagine, and this is the way I think of it. If you hired two groups of people to come check your house to see if the floor was level, and one group brought lasers, levels, and equipment needed to test the shape of your floor, and another group came in and just stared at the ceiling fan and then took pictures and videos of it, walked away and said, all right, your house has been leveled.
Yep.
Who are you
That's
going to pay? Who
yeah,
is
it's
the
good.
one that has sit there and done the work and has proven that the house is level? It's the ones that were looking at the ground
Right.
level. That's why they call it ground level.
Yeah, they never seem to want to address that, because if they did look into it, they're going to see that they can't prove that it curves.
Yep.
And that's the only thing they got for that is quote gravity. They only use gravity. Well, you can just discount that so fast. It's so easy to do with all the long lens cameras and the lasers, like you said. It's been done countless times, but they ignore it on purpose.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, and just imagine the roles being reversed. We're seeing the sun, let's say, you know, because during that time period, there's going to be sunlight near the top of the alleged globe. But being on the biblical Earth model, seeing the sun at the top and on the bottom, if we were like, look, we can see the sun for far too long of a distance, it's refraction. If we see
Right.
line of sight signals traveling from England to Australia, which has happened,
Right.
straight line signals going from England to Australia, guys,
Yeah.
10,000 plus miles of straight, and there's
Yeah.
no curvature, it's refraction. And so that's what we need to do as soon as they do this. If
So
it's refraction, guys, it's
Yeah.
refracting. And
So go ahead.
there's a firmament too, you know, and so they're on
Yep.
the outer edges. Rainbows get lower as you go further south for a
Right.
reason, because of the curvature of that dome. You're getting
Yep.
lower, and so rainbows get lower for that reason as you go south. That's a new proof. We're not
Mhm.
going to ignore that. There's so many things, but who knows what's going to happen when light travels through the firmament in the south anyways. It's not just a suspended light source with no medium impacting it. We have a barrier up above us.
Yeah. And so my concern is all the folks that are going to be flat earthers. I don't know if they're all going to be believers, in you, but they're going to ask them one question and they're going to show it on the news. Did you see a 24-hour sun? And go, yes.
Yeah.
Did you see 24-hour light? Yes. Well,
Mhm.
that doesn't mean it was a sun.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I've just had this uneasy feeling about it. And I'm like, I know that our Father may allow another deception, another lying sign and wonder. And we have to be okay with that. He's going to allow them to happen for a reason. It tells us that in the Bible. He's allowing lying signs and wonders at the end so that the people that love the truth are going to live. The ones that don't are going to perish. So make sure you love the truth.
Yeah.
Because our final observation, actually, I don't think we're going to have a final observation. If you're becoming mortal, you're going to continue making observations. And like I said earlier, the final observation for many will be when the firmament parts like a scroll. And so we don't want it to be. We do not want that to be your final observation. And finally realizing the Bible's telling the truth. All of the other observations we've made are telling the truth. Showing us what reality is. All the calculations George is doing and working out is telling the truth here. Correcting any mistakes we make. Sometimes we make mistakes. But the Father didn't make a mistake. When his prophet said, the heavens are spread out like a tent for the sun to dwell in, they weren't making a mistake. They were speaking in the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit does not lie.
It's not just intelligent design,
Yeah.
it's intentional intelligent design.
Yeah. Yeah. He made everything master engineered. And that's what's blowing my mind, George, as I've been going into creation standard and looking at our world with that mindset, as if understanding we have a master engineer, someone who can think of things for his precious creation, his inheritance. You know, when you look at the word, his inheritance throughout it, it's his people. And so when he's designing a creation for them, he knows how much air they're going to need to survive, to sustain themselves. He knows that a closed system is better at providing that as opposed to putting it next to a vacuum. Not that he couldn't do that if he wanted to, but he knew how much air we're going to need. And you look at how high it stacks up, it goes above Mount Everest. All the dry land called Earth, that's how high he designed that air to go based on its density. And so he didn't design it with the same density of helium. If he did, it would float away when it left the tree leaves and we wouldn't get the air. You know, all these things he had to factor in at creation. the density of the air, water miraculously floating up above us,
Right.
millions and billions of pounds of water moving above our heads daily, in our air, floating, purifying, coming back down. If he didn't design it to rise up and fall back down, how busy would we have to be watering every single plant every single day? You know,
Yep.
like he
Yep.
designed things so well for us, his creation.
Amen.
And the world to come, we can't even imagine
Right.
how much has been gone into that creation. It tells us we can't imagine it. Our minds are not capable of comprehending those things.
I know.
So
It's great.
we are blessed with his creation. And George, thanks for
Amen.
going through all that. And you guys
Good.
who are watching that, thanks for tuning in along with us. We've had quite a bit of people being
Good.
peaceful in the chat. And our moderators, we thank you for your diligent effort. I haven't seen too much moderation needed, of course, but I've been listening and trying to focus on what
Okay.
George is saying, because a lot of it's mind-blowing stuff. The measurements, the math. And I'm not a math person, so I know if you have a headache now, I understand. That was my biggest brain pain when I was in college, is walking away from math class. My brain actually felt different. And I know I would go around, I just felt like, ow, my brain hurts, you know. And some people, it's just automatic. They do math, they get excited, they understand it. And only now am I starting to kind of get that way. And that's because of the love of our Father's creation. And it's making math make a lot more sense.
Does anybody have any questions?
Oh, yeah. I thought I meant to ask about questions. I saw some earlier and I should have flagged them because I have forgotten which ones they were. I could have starred them. I think somebody asked something about the sunlight in one of your presentations or pictures earlier, but I've lost the comment. Let there be light. Beverly Wheeler, good to see you.
Nice.
Good old Beverly.
But yeah, like you said before, there's more and more deception going on. We're seeing more rockets flying. You know, they're launching more rockets.
Yeah.
AI is taking off like crazy.
Mm-hmm. That's a big one. I mean, who saw that coming? I mean, we watched Terminator and they pretty much told us about Skynet, which is a real AI company in China. But yeah, it's happening fast. These deceptions and revelation, the things needed, seem to just be falling into place so fast. I mean, it's blowing my mind.
I actually saw something on, I look at X only because I like to monitor to see what Mr. Musk is saying. And somebody said he was going to do like 100 million additional GPUs for his XAI. He said 1 billion GPUs. Wow. So he's trying to, we can see the stuff going on more and more. And then the UFOs, it just keeps coming more and more. Something's happening.
Yeah, the UFOs ramping up. We have to have a threat from above. Can't have that unless they enforce the globe. And the moon missions weren't enough. They realized that wasn't enough. Now we've got the final experiment. We shall see. Interesting times. I look forward to watching this, and I am praying because the Father always gives us a clue. When there's a lying sign, just like with the moon landings, there's always clues for those who seek truth, how this stuff works, how it falls apart. We're going to see it. The whole world's probably not going to see it, kind of like with that Netflix documentary that came out years ago. People aren't going to look into it. They're not going to continue to test things out. They're going to go, oh, Netflix showed me. I believe Netflix. You know, they don't look at who owns Netflix, what their bias is, operation. I don't even want to say the name of the operation because it's in full swing. Type of bird that mocks things. But yeah, there's a lot going on with the deceptions online and the operations. They're not stopping. They did not just apologize and go, we're sorry, we're not going to control information anymore and brainwash you. It's still happening. Still societies that keep secrets in place, just like with the Sun God missions. 11 of the 12 moonwalkers were in the same club.
There you go.
And so I'm sure we'll see the same with the deceptions around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, great job. I don't see any questions. I'm trying to see some. I don't see any.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, George. That's a lot of work. And the work you saw with the shadows he did today. And he's been tracking the sun. He keeps up with the sun. When the definition of mad scientist, he is going around doing real science, not made up fake make-believe stuff. He's going around doing real observations every day, proving all things. It's really cool seeing him in action. He let us use his vacuum chambers for some observations that we use for creation standard. And I learned a lot from that because the globe model just fell apart with that. And I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot in the last few months, several months. I guess we're coming up on week 17 of creation standard classes. And I can't believe it. Like it's a blessing. It's a lot of work. It's a challenge, probably the most challenging thing I've ever done, but I'm learning. I'm right there with you, George, with all the stuff I'm having to figure out and learn. And
I
learning
mean,
about latitude, longitude.
you're putting a lot of great classroom information on about the true intelligent design, so many different subjects. It's great, Josh.
Yeah,
Really
the
good.
life science is where both ends blow my mind. Life science, earth science, those two categories of learning and research blow my mind every time I dive into those. I'm like, wow, I think I can't be mind blown enough. And then I go one direction and it's like, well, there's another mind blowing thing with intelligent design.
Yeah.
Yeah, never ceases
Yeah.
to amaze. And there is Tyler Porter. Good to see you,
Thanks,
brother.
Tyler. Thank
True
you.
soldier right there, guys. Look out. Move out of the way. Yeah. Oh, it says, Josh, my statement above was a question. Let me see. Hold on. Wait. Let me see if I can find it. This one, considering the North is the Earth's engine room or power source, why is everyone intent on only going to Antarctica? Yeah, I know. I think it's like make it off limits. Then they'll want to go there. Yeah. Checking out the bumpers first. Yeah. I know. It's weird. It is weird.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the magnetic and all. Yeah. The magnetic fields and all that. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the compass. So you were talking about the compass earlier. We do a compass experiment, and a compass, like they were talking about on the globe, how it works on the globe. A globe is a ball full of magma.
Right.
Magma is not magnetic. Any type of metal you heat up does not maintain its magnetic powers. And so a magnetic North Pole, where it's cold, works perfectly. And when you put a magnet up, it'll attract. You can go in circles and circumnavigate. Heat it up, it's not going to work. And so I'm facing north right now, and I don't have to tip this downward to point to the North Pole. I don't have to cut through magma. Right now, I'd be having to cut through the magma, aiming it down to get there. So yeah. When he was talking about that, I'm like, man, they have to look into this because it's provable with creation.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, anybody using a compass, they're on a circular level plane Earth. They just are deceived about it, you know?
Yeah. All of our reality requires the biblical Earth model to exist, or we wouldn't exist. If we're going 500,000 miles per hour, it's not going to happen.
No.
Water's definitely not going to stick to a ball moving 500,000 miles per hour. If we said the biblical Earth model was a flat disk moving 500,000 miles per hour, they would laugh. You know, we're saying it's a stationary, not a disk, flat world, firmament above like a tent. It's not laughable. It's provable.
Yep.
Well, thanks, guys, for tuning in. If I don't see any questions, I'll let you guys get back to what you're doing. This has been the mind-blowing experience, seeing all the math, the angles, the numbers from an architect. If you're joining late, George is an architect, built many fine structures, massive structures, mega churches, things that would probably blow my mind to see. Probably had some dome-like structures along the way.
Yeah, I had a couple of those. They were like kits, big kits. They were like 200 feet in diameter, but a lot of churches liked that at one time. So
yeah,
we'd use that and then finish it out inside. Mm-hmm.
Angel Bulldog said, I asked a question. Let me see if I can find it. Sorry.
No.
I see static ... It's not that one, maybe. At Kevin all day. This one? Hold on. Sorry, I'm trying to find your question. Would there be static electricity? Oh, that was to Kevin. That was a question. Was that a question to us? If
station name.
Ice against ice, would there be static electricity? Sorry, I'm trying to see if there's another question from you. I wasn't sure if that was to us or him.
Right.
If you don't mind, please re-ask because I can't find it. It's lost in the mix. Stars. There it is. If stars are connected to the firmament, does that mean the firmament rotates? Now, stars have a prescribed path. And we're going over something really cool in my class the other day about the electric properties of the firmament. And I'm going to do a video about it. I cannot turn this on. I will warn you, if I turn this on, this thing is powerful. I did not know this. Plasma ball lamps were invented by Nikola Tesla. And these things are phenomenal. When they light up, they require plasma. They tell us that lightning sprites up above us are plasma. The book of Enoch talks about the stars impacting lightning above the firmament. So rising up to become lightning. And so a plasma ball replicates sprites really well with this dome above it. And what I think is cool about that is you can interact with that lightning in here. When you touch it, it makes a lightning bolt. Lightning sprites are connected to some of the most powerful lightning bolts out there. And so I always wondered if we can replicate it in the lab with a dome. Is it possible if I remove this dome, will lightning sprites, that phenomenon we have, will it still happen? Will the electricity shoot out like a Tesla coil? What's going to happen? Well, to my not surprise, when you break the barrier, you can't do it. It doesn't work anymore at all. I mean, you could take like a piece of metal and touch the little sphere in the middle, and it'll make a little spark. Nothing major, but really powerful these things are. And so the stars are moving. And according to Enoch, when he was getting his biblical Earth tour, they can rise up and impact lightning. And you can do the same thing on a small scale with a plasma ball that was invented by a man who believed in the ether. And his name was Nikola Tesla. And so replicating creation on a small scale, you can do that with the biblical Earth model. Remove the barrier, it doesn't work. Same with the vacuum environment that would allegedly be above us. Remove the barrier, it doesn't work. We're all dead. And so I think that's really cool that you can replicate it. And again, I'm going to do a video about it. I can't demonstrate it because I tried that yesterday with my class the second time, thinking I could get away with it and hold it away from my microphone. And the microphone quit working. And then I put it closer to my computer, and the computer's microphone quit working, and it scared me. I thought I better stop. This thing's putting out some major power. I don't want to damage my computer for the sake of just a quick demonstration. So I want to do a video about it because to me it really solidifies, literally solidifies, play on words there, the firmament, makes it real. So you can see.
Now, do you think what the is it the Apocalypse of Abraham and Testament of Levi talk about stars being in the fifth firmament? If we talk about different layers of firmaments too.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool. So that's why they very rarely, only the ones that change their paths would pass in front of the moon or the sun. The other ones, they stay where they're at. They'll go behind it, That makes sense.
Yeah.
7 colors to the rainbow.
Yeah, and the ether, that's what everything's made up of, is the ether. It's the invisible, and it's not necessarily physical things. It's more charges, positive and negative charges that create energy, vibration, and energy, vibration, and frequency that the ether does, which it's done all that. Can you imagine when creation, he just spoke it, and all this energy and vibration and frequency just starts doing everything he wants it to do.
Yeah.
So, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, and that's so powerful. And that question, Angel, was a really good one, because when you talk about those stars moving and you think about that, and the sun and the moon in motion, we know that it's those things in motion due to the Elias effect, which is an effect on pendulums during an eclipse, because the pendulum swinging, they have them up in museums, they say, oh, this is proof the globe's spinning beneath it. However, when Elias the scientist was actually testing this out, I forget his first name, something Elias, he noticed that during eclipses, that pendulum swing was going in a certain direction, kind of like a clock, would change its degree of rotation drastically during the eclipses, which shows that it's what's above us affecting them, not what's below them. And that's why when they went to Antarctica, the pendulum went the wrong direction. They were like, oh, look, it's rotating. That means the world's rotating. And then somebody was like, wait a minute. No, it went the wrong way. We're upside down on the globe. It should be going the other way. What's going on? They were like, we think we uncovered some conspiracy. And then they started trying to modify how they swung the device to make it do what it was supposed to do on the globe, but they had to modify the way they did it. They couldn't just let it do what it does and get the globe results. So had to do the carnival trick maneuver to get those results. But yeah, so many proofs of what's above us, the stars, the sun, the moon, in motion with their electromagnetic properties impacting life, not a spinning, tilting, whirling ball in a vacuum. Pressurized at sea level, like 14.7 psi. Imagine trying to fill up a tire with no rubber, with pressure, like, with no barrier around it. Like, here's just a wheel, fill it up. You can't.
Yeah. Yeah. I was on this past Monday when we were coming home, the Venus was setting south, same time Jupiter's coming up in the north. So I got my Nikon camera out, and in one video, I zoomed in on Venus, got it so that it showed the pulsating, light. It's nothing but a light. Venus is just another moving star, but it's not a mass. And then zoomed out and turned it around and zoomed in on Jupiter. It did the same thing. It's so cool. It's nothing but a light. It's nothing but a light.
Dang. Yeah, Jupiter was one of those that really got my attention early on, because I was watching astronomers view it for a long time. Like they were seeing it for way longer than I thought they should if we were going around the sun. And I can't remember how long it was visible. Let me see if I can find my study on that because nope, I can't find it. But I was asking the astronomers, I'm like, it takes it so much longer, Jupiter, to go around the sun. I forget how long it takes, way longer than us allegedly going around the sun.
Right.
And so you shouldn't be able to see it. If you put it like it's on a clock face, how long you should be able to see it throughout the year, you shouldn't be able to see it as long as you do. And no one had an answer. They were like, I don't know, you just can see it. And I'm like, you shouldn't be able to see it for as long as we are, however many months that was, because I was following an astronomer at that time, and she filmed it when she first saw it, and then she continually filmed it. And I was like commenting, like, it's been so many months since you first saw this. How is that possible? And she's like, honestly, I don't know. I'm just filming it. And then she filmed a wave move across it. And I was like, something's up there. There's a barrier. Somebody said, add a negative charge using a Van de Graaff generator. It's anti-gravity. Yeah, you can make things levitate. I want a Van de Graaff generator. Those things are powerful. I like those. They're really cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, like you said, density. It's basically density, buoyancy, and then the density causes electric charges to change as we go up, and it basically attracts back to Earth. Earth's ground is negative.
Yeah.
And there's positive charges the higher you go up in the air. Yep.
Nice. So much real cool science with creation. It all makes sense on the immovable world.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for joining. We still have 250, just dropped to 247. We're going to have 248. We're going back up. But yeah. Thank you guys for joining us. I don't want to take too much more of your time. We've been going for over 2 hours. Doesn't seem like it, but we have long lectures.
Thanks, Josh, for letting me do this with you. I love it. I love doing these things with you and telling the truth.
Yeah. Putting the real science out there, destroying the lies, because I'm telling you guys, the lying signs and wonders are going to ramp up. It's going to be a bummer. It's going to be like living back in the day when they were doing the sun god missions and being as awake as we are now to the truth. Could you imagine how frustrating that would be? We're going to experience that again, most likely. I do pray that a lot of their plans fail and are hindered and are laughably just blunders and bloopers that we can laugh about and upload, kind of like we do with the faking of space. We can do that with their alleged proofs. So going to get interesting. Pray about it. Pray for peace. Don't let it upset you or rob your peace.
Right.
When Daniel was in Babylon and everybody was being deceived by the false god Baal, worshiping him and worshiping all these deities. He exposed them for what they were, lying, false, powerless deities. All right. Well, you guys are the best. Thank you for joining. Thank you for asking questions, being awesome. We look forward to seeing you soon. We are going to upload a video probably tomorrow about the final experiment. I plan on giving my input as brief as I can. I've already made the video. I just have to work on it, upload it. But there's also a meetup tomorrow, I think in Murfreesboro, Rico from Rico's Tinfoil Sombrero. He sent me the information and I was trying to get it to pull up on my phone. But I know that it's on, wait a minute, Middle Tennessee meetup Friday, 5 p.m. tomorrow, I believe. And so RSVP to Rico, but you can find his channel, Tinfoil Sombrero. I think that's, let me see if that's, I think it's Rico's Tinfoil Sombrero or Tinfoil Sombrero. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but he's having a meetup tomorrow in Murfreesboro. I won't be able to make it, but if you can make it, it'd be great for him to see. It's at like a restaurant. I think it's a Mexican restaurant. Go there. Good food, good service, and they tolerate biblical earth believers coming in and not smacking. Been there a couple times. It was fun. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining. We will see you next time. Thanks again, George. If you had any closing words, let me know.
No, I'm good. Thanks for letting me do this again, and blessings to all.
Yeah, blessings to you guys. We love you. We'll see you real soon. Stay awesome. Stay humble.